進むと見せかけ、引いては粘る。
Alrighty, welcome back everybody to Higurashi When They Cry Chapter 8. I think my name is Michael SK, and I think we're in a middle of a serious chase of some sort. You know, Irie is on the run from being captured by the enemy. Tomotage has already been captured, which is fantastic. Akasaka is literally beating down every evildoer in sight. I think that's what happened in the last episode. I think those are the three big events that occurred last time. And now Shion is coming into the picture. Somehow, she is now coming into the picture.
Shion-san, さっきから歌ってるその歌は何ですか?
Don't you know? It's really popular nowadays.
すみません。音楽には疎いもんで。ん?
There was a wrecked car ahead. White smoke was still visible, so the accident must have just happened. Kasai slowed down.
どうしたの？やっちゃったですね。ってあれ、監督じゃない？
Their car stopped. The sound of the brakes startled Irie, and he fell on his behind. Irie was obviously the one who had been in the accident.
ハロロン、監督。まさかあれ、監督の車ですか？
シオンさん。
大丈夫ですか、入江先生。すぐ医者へ行かれた方がいい。
監督を診療所に連れてって、監督が自分で診察するわけですね。
さあ、立てますか。診療所までお連れしましょう。
診療所は困ります。その崎家に行かな。
監督ちょっとどういうことよ。まずいんじゃない？
Kasai looked at Irie's car, then looked around the area. Then he whispered to Shion.
シオンさん、訳ありのようです。
どうしたの？
入江先生の車に弾痕が。しかも拳銃とは思えません。
マジ？そっち持って。ひとまず本家に連れて行こう。
The two of them loaded Irie into the back seat, got in the car, and left in a hurry.
監督に話を聞かないと状況がわかんないですね。診療所は困る。どういうことだろう。
診療所の何者かに追われたと見るのが今は妥当でしょうが、話を聞くまでわかりません。ただ、相当のヤバいことに巻き込まれたのは間違いないようです。
あれ？どこ行くの？
Shion was confused as to why Kasai suddenly made a wrong turn.
敵は先生のタイヤを狙ってました。生かして捕らえるつもりです。私たちのすぐ近くに追っ手が迫っていたかもしれません。
ってことは追ってきてる？後方に遮影なし。ジョーク、この地形じゃ密着尾行以外は不可能でしょ。
念のためです。もう一度だけ左折したら本家へ直行します。申し訳ありませんが、シオンさんは後方監視をお願いします。
了解です。
保安より本部、標的は民間車両に拾われた模様。車両ナンバーと車種を送る。
本部了解。捜索中のウグイスは民間車両に標的を変更。至急捜索せよ。入江所長は極力生きたままで確保。接触民間人も制圧せよ。ただし生死は問わない。
大丈夫なの？すぐに見つかるの？
ご安心を。所長の白衣には発信機が。
Of course there is.
ウグイスの応援車両には測定器が積まれていますので、三角測定法で位置を検知できます。
Irie was lying in the back seat wearing his white coat. There was a device on his collar. The security department put it there just in case. So no matter how hard Shion tried to look for anyone following them, the enemy already knew exactly where they were.
ウグイス3、標的車両を発見。水車小屋の前を小道に入った。
There was a map of Hinamizawa on the table in the security room. The path by the water mill led to a certain private property. It belonged to the Sonozaki family, and the Sonozaki residence was the only building on it.
サンサ。
あらあら、袋のネズミね。
こちら大鳥1、ウグイス、まだ突入するな。もうじき大鳥が合流する。合流してから一度に突入するぞ。
ウグイス1了解。
クラギ、 ウグイスにさっさと突入させないと相手に無駄な時間を与えるわよ。
感度あるし。
誰も私の言うことなんか聞かないんだから。
I wonder why. I really wonder why. The Sonozaki family's basement had a security system which displayed images captured from the various security cameras on the property. Of course, it wasn't as high-tech as the one at the Irie Institute. It was in the room on the second floor of the of a Gasa house, a Japanese-style room where you had to kneel to avoid hitting your head. With bundles of wires shaking away with the monitors, or snaking away from the monitors, excuse me. It felt like a hidden chamber. There was electricity and a phone nearby, and although it was in a basement, it had all of the basic amenities of the Sonozaki residence. At first, all the club members had watched the monitor curiously, but after a while it got too hot in such a tiny room. Mion and Rena stayed in the room to observe the monitor.
みーちゃん、なんだろう。車が入ってきたよ。これは笠井さんの車だね。多分シオンでしょ。今日の祭りに合わせて遊びに来たってことだろうね。たく、なんでこんな日に。空気の読めないやつ。
Their granny had been at the shrine since the early morning, so there was nobody upstairs to answer the door. And if Mion didn't answer it, Shion would think that nobody was home. Mion wondered if she should tell Shion what was going on. Shion could be helpful sometimes. Kasai's car stopped in front of the gate. Someone was getting out of it.
あれ？みーちゃん、あれ監督だよ。え？
They saw Shion and Kasai holding Irie on the monitor. Obviously, something serious had happened.
行ってみよう。レナにケイちゃん、一緒に来て。サトコたちはここでモニターの監視。リカちゃんは表に出ちゃダメだよ。羽生はそれでも出てかないようリカちゃんの監視。お任せですわ。なのです。ひどいのです。
Maybe Okanogi had made the right decision. If he had let Nightingale go in as Takano had ordered, it would have been on the monitor. But Okanogi ordered them to stand by until another unit arrived, so they waited. So Mion didn't notice that the enemy was about to attack. By this time, there were many vehicles belonging to the mountain dogs parked by the windmill. Okanogi and Phoenix 1 had joined with Nightingale, and they were getting ready to head in. However, it had been a good idea to leave Sudoko to watch the monitor, and if Mion hadn't gone out, Irie would have been killed. Mion didn't know it yet, but Irie was their only hope of rescuing Tomitake. So as a result, entirely by circumstance, they did everything correctly.
おねえ。もう神社の方かな。シオン。お姉たちどっから来てんですか。さては地下にいましたね。あそこで遊んでるって鬼ババに言いつけますよ。んなことはどうでもいい。監督は監督。
まさかやられたのか。
ってことはお姉たちも訳ありのようですね。何が起こってるんです？しーちゃん、話すからよく聞いて。実はね。
監督、何があったんですか。すみません。富武さんが山犬に捕まりました。診療所の地下区画に囚われているようです。私は逃げる時に奴らに追われて事故を起こしてしまい。
Irie explained everything he could while enduring the pain. Everyone was happy to see him safe, but Mion's expression quickly grew stern. Then she asked Shion a question.
追われてる。尾行はなかったよ。
とにかく中へ。良くない雲行きです。
They heard the sound of a car approaching, and it wasn't alone. Who could it be at this time of day? It was a waste of precious seconds to even think that.
つけられてんじゃん、シオンのバカ。つけられてないもん、お姉のバカ。
Kasai picked up both sisters and ran through the gate.
地下へ急ぎましょう。あそこなら安全です。
ミオンさん、変な車がいっぱい来ますわよ。分かってる。地下に戻って扉を閉めるよ。リカちゃんは羽生さんと一緒に隠し部屋に入りましたわ。
ウグイス6標的を発見。 R の友人数人も一緒です。
間違いないわ。そうよね、ジローさん。
Well, at least he's still alive, for the time being. Tomitake was lying on the floor of the security room. His hands and legs were cuffed, and there was another pair of handcuffs to connect them, leaving him bent backwards on the floor. He couldn't get up or even turn around. Takano laughed and poked Tomitake's side with the toe of her shoe. Now that's humiliating. Or is it? The mountain dogs climbed over the fence easily. There was no need for anyone to explain at this point. It was obvious that they were the enemy, and that they were the mountain dogs that Rika had spoken about many times. They went through the grove of trees and headed for the entrance of the underground storehouse. The first 5 mountain dogs were supposed to capture them all, but they fell down one after another. Just as one of the mountain dogs started to wonder why they fell, he felt something on his leg. The next moment, he was flying through the air. As he stood up, his leg got pulled again. He realized then that there was a rope wrapped around his leg. Because of the way he fell, the rope was wrapped tightly around it, and it wouldn't come off easily. Sadako had set up lots of traps in the bushes. After all, she wouldn't just sit around all day on an empty property, on an empty property, excuse me. The club members headed into the underground storehouse one after another. The mountain dogs couldn't do anything, although they did see them. It was a heavy door, but when they put their strength together, it closed easily. Mio unlocked the door quickly, putting on the deadbolt for good measure.
これ大丈夫かな？破られないかな？かな？
Oh, 100%.
テレビには5台、6台、いえ、もっと映ってたかもしれませんわ。全部ワゴン車で、中には変な男たちがいっぱい。
簡単には破られないでしょうが、荒ごとに慣れている連中です。過信しない方がいいでしょう。
Before he could even finish speaking, someone pounded on the door. The second group of mountain dogs had arrived. Although the heavy door was separating them, it wasn't all comforting to know that the enemy was just on the other side.
私の失態ですみません。
監督は何も失敗してないですよ。とにかく、奥へ行こう。
そうだな。監視カメラの様子で敵の人数を探ろうぜ。
ああ、はいはい。私はのけ者で事情もわからずいきなりクライマックスですよ。はい。あ、もう。あんたには5分時間ができたら全部説明するから。
ウグイス1より大鳥1。標的は防空壕のようなところへ逃げ込んだ。扉は鋼鉄製。突破できない。
大鳥1了解。この園崎家ってやつはとんでもない金持ちだな。敷地が広すぎて包囲は不可能だ。包囲は断念。俺たちも突入に加わるぞ。ウグイスはその辺の倒木を探せ。大筒にして扉をぶち破る。
大鳥7より大鳥1、インドア用のプラ爆があります。準備しますか？
Plastic explosives are explosives for military use. There are various different kinds, but he was talking about the type specially made to break down doors. Okanogi momentarily thought it was a good idea, but changed his mind right away. This was a small village. If there was an explosion, everybody would hear. Oops, sorry. I guess I'm really good at pressing the wrong button. It was daytime, and they were on the surface. It was the worst time and place for the mountain dogs to do their job.
さすがに爆破は無理だな。ああ？いや待て。今何時だ？
もうじき10時です。
使えるぞ。大鳥7、やるぞ。新刊を準備しろ。
は？隊長、どうして10時だと爆破が可能なんですか？
Okanogi's mind was working sharper than ever. He was sure that this would work. Yeah, I'm curious. Why is he okay with this? Everyone gathered in the secret room.
みんな、大丈夫なのですか？はわお、監視カメラを見てましたのです。敵は多分30人くらいいますのです。
God damn.
そんなにかよ。やってくれるぜ。
ちょっとスイッチをいじるよ。連中立ち往生してるよ。
When Mion touched a switch, the screen switched to the view of the entrance to the basement. Some of the mountain dogs were checking out the door. They didn't appear to be trying to force it open. They were simply at a loss for what to do.
向こうはどう打って出るでしょう。こっちを袋のネズミと思ってますもの。多分大勢で体当たりでもして無理やり破る気ですわ。
なんだこいつら、丸太なんか持ってきて。
どうやらあれで扉を打ち破ろうとしているようです。
今聡子が袋のネズミだと言いました。なら相手が扉を開けようと苦闘している間にここを脱出するべきだと思います。
同感です。それに富武さんも助け出さないと。
そうだね。いくらここの壁が厚くても敵に見つかったら価値はないと思う。レナも脱出する時だと思うな。
おねえ、この状況ならもうとっくに警察に電話できる段階じゃありません？だねえ、一番最初の市民の権利を忘れてたよ。仮に警察のスパイに電話を聞かれたとしても、もうこの段階ではバレバレだしね。
That is true. I mean, they already know that everybody is here, and, well, there's really no stopping that. What is a spy going to do at this point? Maybe warn them? But that's pretty much it. That's the
大井さ
extent
ん
of
が
it.
駆けつけてくれるはずさ。
Mion picked up the phone. Why hadn't she thought about this earlier?
あれれ？
Uh-oh.
どうした？
Mion panicked as she tried to listen for a dial tone.
電話が、なんで？うんともすんとも言わない。
ケーブルが切られたかもしれません。
Suddenly, everything went dark.
なんだろう、停電？
Kasai lit his cigarette lighter, and Mion turned her emergency flashlight on.
地下の弱点を突かれたね。でもこれだけ暗ければ敵だって簡単には。
Oh, they're bound to have lights. They're gonna have their pistols in one hand, a light in the other.
わかんないけど、多分暗闇でも見える機械とかあるんじゃない？
Or straight up night vision, there's also that.
持ってそうよね、あの連中。
ミオンさん、どうして敵は電気を切断しましたの？ただの嫌がらせ？
嫌がらせ以上の意味があるとすれば、ここのセキュリティを殺すこと？
あいつら扉を撫でてましたの。諦めたんじゃない。あっという間に壊す方法を持ってて、それを気づかれないためにカメラを壊そうと、それで電気を切ったんじゃ。
まさか爆破する気？
ってことは扉は一瞬で破られて、ここにもう砦の価値はねえってことじゃねえのか？
みーちゃん、今すぐにここを脱出しよう。さっき言ってた核シードの脱出口を教えて。こっちです、みんな。
Mion was getting confused amidst all the chaos. She hadn't underestimated the mountain dogs. She even considered that they would have some explosives. But she didn't think that they would use them in Hinamizawa in broad daylight. Somebody will hear the explosion. Is there even such a thing as a silent explosive?
荒っぽい連中なんだろう。多少の危険は顧みないのかもしれないぜ。
Unless they're gonna try and connect this with the emergency manual.
山犬は非常に慎重な奴らです。
Like, okay, this is the gas leak or whatever the fuck, the explosive leak, and then they try and get the emergency manual signed away or something or other. They try to say like, oh, Rika was just killed. Well, time to kill off the villagers.
こんな真っ昼間
Basically
に
what
爆
we
弾
saw
な
in
んて。
chapter 7.
高野さんならともかく、あのお好みさんが許可するはずがない。
それでもぶち抜こうってのかい？いい度胸だよ。
ルナはわかんないんだけど、音がしない鉄砲があるように音がしない爆弾ってあるの？
ないです。どんな爆弾もみんな似たような音がします。
そうか、わかりましたわ。監督は綿流しの本部役員ですわよね。今日のお祭り、雨天延期の判断は
10 a.m. That's what it is.
確か今日の10時に決まって。あ、
まさか運動会と同じで。
気を隠すには森ってことね。
Rika knew Okonogi well. He would always complain about how he had to guard her like she was a princess. Rika had never expected Okonogi to be so sharp. That was why she was more frustrated than anyone else. The mountain dogs had quickly set explosives on the basement door. Long wires were connected to the explosives, and the mountain dogs were waiting at the other end, lying flat on the ground. One of the members was holding a detonation switch. All the wires were linked to it.
もうじき10時です。今朝連中に先生を撃たれた時はよ、よりによって今日かよと思ったよ。だが今は今日で助かったぜって思ってるぜ。
Okonogi had realized that he could use the festival effectively, He was going to make sure his enemies got what they deserved. On the morning of a village event, they use fireworks to let everyone know that an event is going to take place that day. This method is often used for track and field days at school. Since Watanagashi starts in the evening, the fireworks go up at 10 a.m. The fireworks, of course, make loud explosive noises. Since Hinamizawa is located in a ravine, the sound echoes, making it hard to figure out where it's coming from. And that was an advantage for the mountain dogs. A loud noise and a shock shook the ground like an earthquake. The explosion must have warped support beams everywhere. There was a discomforting squeaky noise and dust fell from the ceiling. It certainly was powerful. The explosion must have blown the door wide open. An explosion that took place without anyone noticing it. Mion led everyone into one of the rocky caves. There was a well-hidden shaft in there. They called it a hidden well, but it was actually a very eerie vertical tunnel. They didn't have enough flashlights for everyone, so there was no way for them to see the entirety of this ominous hidden well.
こいつを降りろってのか。どこまで続いてるんだ。
だいぶ降りると途中に横穴があるの。そこを抜ければ山中の古井戸に抜けられるようになってる。ってことは、それについて一番詳しいお姉が先頭打者決定です。お先にどうぞ。私がトップ？
Is this really the time to argue? Come on.
他の誰がトップなんです？しんがりは私と葛西が務めます。早く行って。わかった。
Mion was going to volunteer to take the rear, but Mion and Shion knew instinctively. Because there were so many of them, the rear might not make it in time. Unlike the iron door at the entrance, once the enemies were inside, all they'd have to do was go through the inner doors, which were easily breakable. The route was basically a straight line. They probably won't get lost on their way. That's why Shion took the rear guard position before Mion did. After all, she was actually the older sister. Shion wanted to protect her younger sister, who was playing the older sister in this real emergency. Mion intuitively knew what Shion was thinking. Mion understood well the relationship between her and herself. She wasn't the only one who felt guilty for taking the older sister's position. Shion felt guilt for making Mion take on the responsibility of the family head. And here, finally, was a chance for Shion to atone. Glad that they can make up and everything here. Or do what's right or whatever the fuck.
今は開けるべき時です。
Mion silently threw over the key. Kasaya and Shion took it and ran deep into the rock tunnel.
みんな聞いて。横穴まではだいたい30メートルちょっと。落ちたら底なしだよ。しかも真っ暗なんだからね。待機してる人はちゃんとはしごを照らしてあげること。一度にせいぜい1人か2人しか降りられないね。私が先陣を切る。照らしてて。
ミオンさん、気をつけて。照らす人も落ちないように。
If the lights were on, they could have gone down quickly. There were actually a few light bulbs inside of the well. Of course, Mion had already checked them. It was now certain that the enemy had cut the power to the basement. It was extremely dangerous to go down this well with just a little light from the flashlights. As one went down, there had to be people lighting up the way. Mion was right. She realized as she went down herself that it was almost impossible to go down the ladder without the weak light of the flashlights. The lights didn't reach all the way down. In the darkness, her feet suddenly became unsteady. Every step she took made her more nervous. It was about 30 meters to the horizontal tunnel. That's quite deep enough already. But the hidden well went deeper than that. If Mion fell, she wouldn't just injure herself. Hasn't it been 30 meters yet, she thought? She couldn't even remember exactly how long 30 meters was. Had she missed the horizontal tunnel already? At that time, she felt a cool breeze on her body. She could sense a huge hole nearby, so she took out a flashlight to light the surrounding area. She saw the black tunnel yawning before her. Mion lit up the way from below.
よっしゃ、次はリカちゃんだ。その次が監督で、次が羽生。どんどん降りろよ。
Irie wanted to say that he would go last, but Rena gave the order first. They couldn't get into the basement of the clinic without Irie. Without him, they couldn't rescue Tomatake. Their lives were all equally important, but at least for the moment, his was the second most vital after Rika.
気をつけてください。照らしています。
分かってる。みんなも急いで。
Uh-oh. Rika was much shorter than Mion. She couldn't go down the ladder as easily. Her legs were too short, and her left foot slipped.
大丈夫。くそ。いつまで経っても成長できない人生なんてごめんよ。私は昭和58年6月を超える。そしてね、もっともっと身長が伸びるのよ。胸だってもっと大きくなる。いつまでもこんな子供の体なんて絶対にごめんなんだから。
Though she had been living for over 100 years, Rika was still afraid of heights. As she fought that fear, she tried to climb down as quickly as possible. After a while, the light from the top didn't reach her anymore, and Mion's light from below lit her way. Mion's light was enough. The next person could come down.
僕はもう大丈夫です。次、降りてきて。さ。
Okay, so I was gonna say, I am slightly aware that there's like a quote-unquote anime sequel, spin-off, whatever it is. I guess like a reboot of sorts that tells the story in a different way. It's the most recent anime, which I was told not to watch for obvious reasons. Watching any of that would have spoiled who knows what. But I think that it actually does continue into Rika and Sorako going to school together, as they're just a little bit older. So yeah, in some way or another, I think Rika can achieve her goal of, you know, growing taller and becoming more of a woman.
次は監督なのです。
Or at least that's the hope, right, gang?
大人ならキビキビ降り遊ばせ。
わかりました。先に行きます。
The mountain dogs moved forward carefully, wearing special goggles so they could see in the dark. Yep, that's what it is. The one in front noticed Sotoko's trap and stopped the rest of the men.
ウグイス7よりウグイス1へワイヤー感応のトラップを発見。突入は慎重を要す。
ウグイス1了解。大鳥1トラップの痕跡少なからず通電を検討されては。
バカ野郎。そんなことしたら連中が逃げやすくなっちまうじゃねえか。向こうはこの暗闇で逃げるのもままならねえはずだ。俺たちに有利なフィールドを最大限に使うんだ。この暗闇で追い詰めて捕らえろ。これほどのでかい号だ。別に出口がきっとある。連中は隠れたりしないぞ。必ずそこから逃れようとするはずだ。突入班に火器と防弾盾、スタングレネードを与えろ。園崎家っていやヤクザの大御所だ。密輸拳銃くらいの反撃は想定しろよ。ってことはそのワイヤートラップもクライマー程度には注意しろってことだ。
Oh, come on, I think you're overreacting.
全身に1000個も鉛玉食らいたくなかったらな。
Well, you know, I guess it's better to expect more than what there actually is.
全身バラバラになるぞ。
了解。
Sudoko's traps were effective only because they were professionals. Sudoko had assumed any professionals would misinterpret her traps as more dangerous ones. That is why she ran wires everywhere. And Sudoko was right. Although the mountain dogs were successful at breaking down the iron door, they hadn't even reached the torture room. However, the huge cave with the hidden well was just on the other side of the door to the torture room. It was just a matter of time before the enemy caught them.
よっしゃ、次はレナだ。
ケイチ君も急いでね。
ケイちゃん、どんな感じですか？
ああ、今レナが降りてる。割とキリキリ降りられるみたいだぞ。
はいはい、焦って落ちないようにね。その井戸、歴代園崎家に逆らった連中の死体を捨てるのに使ったって噂もある底なしの井戸だそうですから。
Why would you bring that up now?
シオン、お前なんだよ、その持ってるの。
Shion had returned with a big machine gun in her hands. Alright, what the fuck? What the heck, Keiichi thought. That's not what I'm thinking. It's one of those machine guns they use in war movies. Its definitely characteristic, or its defining characteristic, is the way the magazine is bent forward. What's it called again? Kasai had one in his hands too. He appeared used to handling machine guns. It almost didn't look real. But it seemed like a natural fit for the surreal world lit only by flashlights. Keiichi felt like the odd one out here since he didn't know how to use a gun. Shion and Kasai hid on opposite sides of the cave so they could see the entrance to the torture room. Not only Kasai, but Shion also seemed to be used to doing things like that.
シオン、その役は俺がやる。だから次はシオンが降りろ。
ケイちゃんの男のプライド、サンキューです。でも、ケイちゃんにカラシニコフの説明をするより、ケイちゃんの番になったらキリキリ降りてくれる方がロスタイムは少ないです。気にしないで。いい女は死なないから。
As Shion winked at Keiichi, they heard a door being knocked down nearby. Immediately, Shion and Kasai's looks turned stern, and they took cover behind the rocks, aiming their guns into the darkness. The enemies had entered the torture room. There was a flashlight next to the door. Kasai had left it there. The mountain dogs seemed to be able to see in the darkness, even though they couldn't. So it was an improvised solution. The footsteps of the mountain dogs were growing closer. They were passing through the torture room. In other words, the door was the only thing separating them from the enemies.
ケイチ君、早く！
シオン、お前が先に降りろ。
シオンさん。
んで、ケイちゃんに譲って私だけ生き残ったら、私はお姉に一生恨まれますって。私の思い人はもういないけど、お姉にはいるもん。
は？お前、この忙しい時に何の？
死ぬ気はないけど、シオンに伝えて。私たち、また次の時も双子がいいね。
Oh, she's using the real names.
行け！
Shion yelled, telling Keiichi to move on. He didn't understand why Shion said to tell Shion, but she asked him, so he had to convey that message. Otherwise, if something terrible really happened, Shion's message would never reach Mion. Or Mion's message would never reach Shion, whatever the fuck it is. An explosion shook the air. Oh, don't play this music. Something was thrown in from the torture room. The explosion from that and the noise from Kasai's machine gun sounded at the same time. The claymore echoed in the cave. All I can do, as those violent flashes of light burn the series of images into my eyes, is shed tears over my own intolerable powerlessness, and climb down the ladder. Mion quickly screamed from below. I descended and screamed up to the top too.
ウグイス1、攻撃を受けた。敵は隠し部屋奥の大空洞内で阻止線を展開。マズルフラッシュは2、おそらく AK だ。
集団がうまいぞ、プロだ。大鳥1、指示を行う。
I'm sure this is the fight that Okanogi was waiting for.
そう来なくっちゃな。相手はプロだぞ。 キリングハウスの卒業生以外は突入するな。ウグイス、1、2。大鳥7、8。突入準備。火器はいくつある？
MP5 が4。各種グレネード多数。防弾盾は突撃銃には信用できない。放棄する。
入ってすぐ脇に発光した懐中電灯が落ちている。おそらく向こうは暗視装備がないものと推定。
ウグイス1だ。突入は俺たちでやる。合図と同時にスタングレネードを放り込み、突入3回。
While the enemies were quiet, Kasai changed his magazine.
シオンさん、もう十分です。行ってください。
私が抜けたら葛西が弾倉を変えている間に誰が弾幕張るんです？ツーマンセルが基本でしょ。
There was a contradiction in what Shion just said. According to her theory, the last two can never escape. Mion kept shouting from the tunnel below.
シオンのバカ！早く降りて！
Everyone knows it wasn't safe to stay, but nobody could stop Mion from screaming.
俺とミオンはここでシオンを待つ。レナはみんなを連れて裏山に逃げてくれ。
わかった。
嫌よ。誰が欠けても嫌。
リカ。
これが最後の世界なのよ。ここで一つ後悔が残ったから、もう一度やり直そうというのはもうない。私は嫌よ。シオンが死んだり、葛西が死んだりする未来はごめんよ。
Then what do?
もうやり直せないって知ってるから。嫌よ。いや絶対嫌。だからシオン、早く降りてきて。
As they looked up to the top of the well, they saw a violent flash and heard a roar. Jesus. Alright. Then they heard explosive sounds, different from the sounds of the machine guns that Shion and Kasai were using. They also heard a tinkling sound, which could have been the sound of bullet shells. They couldn't see anything other than the flashing lights. Only the noise reached them. When everything stopped, after a little silence, footsteps that didn't belong to Shion or Kasai gathered at the top of the well. They could hear hard-soled shoes kicking the bullet shells as they walked.
クリア。ウグイス1より大鳥1。銃眼を制圧。
That voice echoed down the well, and Mion and the others heard it too. They didn't know how to react. Some became speechless, some started to cry, some let out a wordless scream. They looked up the well as they waited for Shion and Kasai to come down, but there was no sign of them. A bright beam of light shone down from the top of the well. Irie grabbed Mion and Keiichi's collars and pulled them back. But they could see in the dark. They might already know that Keiichi and the others were hiding in that horizontal tunnel.
了解。試みる。聞こえるか？返事をしなくてもいい。聞け。
A guy shouted from the top of the well.
女王感染者、フルデリカと診療所長、君たちは誤解している。我々は特別な風土病を撲滅するためにやってきた。今回の件は、所長がある陰謀に加担している可能性があるためだ。君たちには何の関係もない。おとなしく、両名を引き渡せ。
They had already turned all the flashlights off, so nobody could tell what kind of expressions were on each other's faces. But I could sense Mion's expression distorting, excuse me. And because of the darkness, nobody knew to stop her from screaming.
この少女のことが、それが問題ならば安心しろ。生きている。気絶してるだけだ。
生きてるってよ、みーちゃん。
Mion didn't rest easy as at their announcement though, because she could knew, alright, Shion's survival wouldn't help resolve this situation. This has been like the only chapter I've noticed that has actually had some translation errors. Or some grammatical ones, if you will. The translation is fine as far as I can tell. Like, everything's flowing. It's just... Yeah, there's been some errors in this
こっちの男も同じだ。生きてる。だが、両名の引き渡しを無駄に拒むなら、この二人を交渉に使わねばならないぞ。
何をする気？
As Mion looked up to the top of the well in the dark, it suddenly became very bright, and she saw something unbelievable. Shion was unconscious, and one of the men was holding her. He was basically sticking her body out over the edge of the well. If the man let go of Shion, she would fall to the bottom. They had no idea how far down it went. There was no way she'd survive. Shion didn't reply, but she moved just a little bit. Shion was alive, at least for the moment.
はったりだ。落とすわけねえ。
は？何を根拠に言ってんの？人質ってのはね、2人以上いる時に限りいくらでも殺せるんだよ。上にはシオンと葛西さんがいる。奴はシオンを突き落としてもう一度こっちに同じ選択を迫れるんだよ。はったりなんかで言ってるんじゃないんだよ。
Mion lashed out fiercely at Keiichi. He regretted saying what he just did.
考える時間が必要なら与える。ただし60秒経過したら最初の人質を突き落とす。よく考えて素早く決断しろ。
どうしようどうしよう。
Mion was half crazed with fear and panic.
敵の狙いは私です。リカさんはすでに脱出に成功したということにして、私だけが行きましょう。それで多分許してもらえるはずです。
And that plan sounded like the best idea for minimizing damage, but Rena quietly spoke up.
ダメ。シーちゃんたちがレナたちの逃げ出す時間を稼いでくれたんだもん。監督が言ったら何のためにシーちゃんたちが頑張ってくれたかわかんなくなっちゃう。
じゃあ何？
Yeah, plus there's also the possibility that if EDA went back up, then he'd just be used as another hostage. They technically really don't need him alive, do they?
シオンにしないと言うの？
Or they could just continue to use Shion and Kasai as hostages until they get Rika, who is very important here.
レナ、あんたシオンが死んでもいいって言うの？あんたね、シオンは！
やめてくださいまし、ミオンさん。私だって胸が張り裂けそうなんですのよ。だってシオンさんは私のネーネーなのに。
Oh, that's a new one. Mion started to cry as she held Sotoko's head. The mountain dog's beam of light shone into the horizontal tunnel. Their eyes had grown used to the darkness, so even with a little light, they could sort of see one another. But so what? This was a desperate situation, and Mion and Sotoko continued to cry. Rena bit her lower lip, trying to hold her feelings in. Irie simply looked down. And as for Rika and Hanyu, they were restless.
どうすればいいの？羽生、どうすればいいのかわからない。
僕にもどうすればいいかわかりませんです。
あんた神様でしょ。なんとかしてよ、なんとかしてよ。地通力とかで敵をやっつけてシオンを助けてよ。奇跡でも起こらなきゃ救えない。なら起こしてよ。神様のあなたが起こしてよ。
Oh my god, you've gotta be shitting me. No, the game just crashed. You've gotta be shitting me. No, what the fuck? God damn it. Well, fuck, God. Fuck me right in the butt. Come on, we were doing so good. Alright, let me load her back up here. Damn it. You know what we have to do, right? We have to go through like 45 minutes of like fucking gameplay here, or reading or whatever. We have to scroll through everything. Oh man, that sucks. That happened in chapter 7, right? Yeah, it did. It did happen in chapter 7. That's such shit. God damn it. Can I skip?
シオンさん。
Nope, I can't. I have to do the old scroll wheel. Or does
大丈夫ですか？
does another button work? Control. Hell yeah, that's what's up. Okay, we'll get back to where we need to be here, gamers. Don't worry.
あんた神
Okay, I
様でし
think
ょ。
we're back where we need to be here. So I'm gonna save it, just in case. Because apparently the game can crash here. At least it can for me.
なんとかしてよ、なんとかしてよ。地通力とかで
Okay, so
敵をやっつけて
we've seen this.
奇跡でも起こらなら起こしてよ。神
There we
様
go.
のあなたが起こしてよ。
Okay, see, it was the slap that crashed the game. But now we're okay. They all heard a strange sound. Everyone was surprised to see what caused it. Hanyu just slapped Rika in the face.
リカ、
Ah.
聞きなさい。羽生。私たちは共にあまたの世界を渡り、人の身では知り得ないことをいくつも知ってきました。ある時はあなたが教えられ、いくつもの大切なことを学び、ようやくこの世界で最も大切なことを学び取りました。私たちが求めてやまず、そしてようやく得たもの、それが何かわかりますか？
Is it meth? Been watching a lot of Breaking Bad. It was how to make a miracle happen. A miracle is like a number you get on a die. People think that the result of the die depends on God's mood. God holds the key to miracles. Humans don't have the right to control them. But although humans don't have the right, they can perceive it. They can perceive how to improve their odds and how they can make a miracle happen.
奇跡の起こし方。リカ、あなたはもう知っているはずです。私よりも先に知ったはずです。あなたが本当に大事にしたいこの最後の世界で知りつつ、そのやり方を試さないのですか？
Rika's mouth hung open. That's right, she thought. I had forgotten again how to make a miracle happen.
みんなは逃げてください。
Rika stood up. Everyone was surprised to hear what she said.
入江、みんなを頼みますです。高野は入江も僕も殺すでしょうが、僕の殺し方には高野なりのこだわりがあるはずなのです。だから多分しばらくは殺されないでしょう。
冗談じゃねえ。でも必ず殺されるってことじゃねえか。
僕が出ていかなければ今すぐシーたちは殺されます。なら僕が捕まっても、僕が殺されるまでの時間はきっと反撃のチャンスにもなりますです。リカちゃん、考えてみたらとっても簡単なことだったのです。
Not sure I like this black texture. As she spoke, Rika stepped out of the horizontal tunnel and reached the ladder. The beam of light showed down upon her. In this dark world, her figure seemed almost holy, like someone receiving a divine revelation.
だって僕たちは絶対に勝てるってみんな信じてるから。僕もみんなも、そして神様までも信じてるから。ミパー。
Rika's smile told them that she trusted them 100%. She believed someone would come rescue her before she got killed. That was why she didn't mind letting the enemy capture her. If it would save Shion and Kasai's lives, then it was nothing.
今上がります。シーを引っ込めるのですよ。
The mountain dogs pulled Shion's body away from the edge of the well.
僕の仲間に指一本触れてみろ。舌を噛んで死んでやりますです。高野は自分の手で僕を殺したがってますから、お前たちは困ったことになりますですよ。
わかった。上がってこい。
僕の仲間をこのまま見逃すのです。どうせお前たちの計画でやがては全員死ぬのです。
その条件は飲めない。命は保証するが拘束する。
じゃあお気の毒さようなら。舌を噛むよりここで手を離した方が早いわね。この底は深いわよ。私の死体が出てこないと、それもまたお前たちが計画に困るんじゃない？
As long as they captured Rika, the mountain dogs didn't really care about the others. They were ready to kill the rest if they resisted once they had Rika. That's why they wouldn't agree to Rika's request. They started to think that maybe they should just lie to Rika. But that was when they heard something. Hanyu started to speak in a clear voice. It was a voice with a very mysterious tone. It sounded like it was coming from below the surface of the earth, but it also sounded like it was coming from heaven. Hanyu spoke.
この私が取引に応じると言っている。ぐずぐず言わずに言う通りにせよ。ゲロ。フルでリカは上がる。それに対し求めた小さな約束を履行せよ。天は自ら与えぬ者に与えることはない。人の身に過ぎた考えは不要。身に過ぎた偽りの罪に身の程を知れ。
Nightingale 1, the member who had been demanding their surrender, was suddenly overcome by a strange sensation. He had been in such an advantageous position, but somehow it didn't seem that way anymore. And that girl's voice, there was something strange about it. That voice belonged to something both holy and sacred. He instinctively sensed it. Humans can only negotiate with other humans. It's impossible to negotiate with a being greater than all humans.
待て、隊長に相談する。そのままで待て。ウグイスワンより大鳥ワン。
He had been very threatening until just a minute previous, but he had grown completely perplexed. Everyone was stunned by Rika and Hanyu's mysterious auras.
必ずすぐ助け出すからね。
Rena muttered as she tried to hold back her tears.
貴様らの条件を飲もう。この場は見逃す。フルでリカは上がれ。タカのサンサがお前に用があると言っている。
では行ってきますですよ。ニパー。
One last nipa before she goes. I don't even know what to think here, to be totally honest with you guys. This is rough.
探しましたんで、リカさん。あなたは大事な身なんですから、急に姿を消されちゃたまりませんね。こいつはルール違反です。では、リカさんは診療所に来てもらいましょう。お前たちは行け。
The assault unit that led Rika away headed back to the basement. They were about to break the rules, too.
約束を破る気ね。
約束？そりゃ何の話ですんね。おほった、すったら本当に舌を噛まれちゃ叶いませんわ。おい。
As Rika tried to run, Okanogi grabbed her fragile arm. She fought back, but her resistance meant nothing against him. One of the mountain dogs took out a syringe from a case. It shouldn't kill her, but it would probably put Rika to sleep. Takano, after all, didn't need a chatty Rika. She just needed a live queen carrier. If Rika got that shot, that will mean the end of this world. Before Rika could scream, the other dog covered her mouth.
さっさと注射しろい。
The dog with the syringe drew closer to Rika's arm. Rika was being grabbed from behind and her mouth was covered. There was no way for her to fight. I believe. Even if I'm asleep, I believe. Rika kept repeating that in her mind. She believed that someone would wake her up. And that the first thing she'd see when she opened her eyes would be her beloved friends. Oh, come on, Akasaka, please, just fucking... It happened all of a sudden. The man with the syringe spun twice in the air and dropped to the ground. Nobody, including Okanogi, could understand the sudden phenomenon. It defied the very laws of physics. Rika couldn't understand either. The man who was holding Rika from behind spoke up.
間に合った。
Yes, bro. Fuck yeah. His voice had such a heavy feeling imbued in it.
数えきれない世界で後悔した。いつも気づく時には手遅れだった。
お前、誰だ？
The others took a few steps back, away from Rika and the man holding her. There are many units within the Mountain Dogs, so often its members don't remember each other's faces. There were just too many units, so nobody really paid attention. All of the Mountain Dogs were more or less well built, but this man had an excellent physique. Even Okanogi noticed that he'd never seen anyone like that in one of his units before. Rather, he actually wanted to recruit him. But...
私が ずっと一番伝えたかった言葉を言うよ。リカちゃん、君を助けに来た。
Fuck yeah, dude, let's fucking go. The hands that were holding Rika left her shoulders. They left ever so gently. And as soon as they did, they transformed into a pair of furious fists, which implanted themselves in the faces of the men attacking him from behind. They flew through the air. Akasaka hit those two without even turning around. 5 members of the Mountain Dogs surrounded Akasaka. However, he didn't even see them. He could only feel the deep emotion of finally being able to do what he had been longing to. And the 5 of them sensed it. That maybe, just maybe, he didn't even care that they were there. This fucking song, dude. This track right here, yes. On Okanogi's signal, the 5 Mountain Dogs bore down on Akasaka. Rika dropped to the ground and Akasaka was left standing. Akasaka, who came back to keep a promise he made with a girl 5 years ago. But his promise was worth more than 5 years. Rika knew that. Akasaka probably understood it too. The promise went back 100 years. For 100 years, he regretted not being able to save her from the conspiracy. He believed that one day there would be a miracle, and he could travel back to this day. That was why he continued to train himself. His strong will and Rika's wish made that miracle happen. That one and only miracle allowed Akasaka to be here in Hinamizawa in June 1983. The first one went down in the time it took Okanogi to blink. Lowering himself to grapple Akasaka had proven fatal. He wasn't so soft as to let such perfect openings go by. Akasaka's hand smashed into the back of the man's head. His blow was powerful enough to smash a pillar of ice or shatter a mountain of tiles. As it happened, Akasaka was holding back a little, so that his target wasn't too injured.
その手加減を赤坂は初段からやめる。だから一撃で撃沈する。微塵ほども容赦なく。
Akasaka's well-trained fists continued to knock down the Mountain Dogs, 1 member for every time Okanogi blinked. 1 hit per opponent was all Akasaka needed. And this was the true essence of karate. Akasaka's colleagues praised and feared his power. He's basically he's the old guy from Hunter x Hunter. Trained all those years and everything. Weapons were useless against him. No matter how hard his victim tried to protect himself, it meant nothing to Akasaka. But he was too strong for the Mountain Dogs to even understand that. It was as if he was a giant. They had to crane their necks up to see. Akasaka didn't even give them time to think. Someone from the Mountain Dogs must have called for backup. About a dozen more members had arrived.
大丈夫だ、リカちゃん。私がここにいる限り、君には指一本触れさせない。
My man.
みー、僕はお絵かきして待ってますです。
As Rika stayed low to the ground, she picked up a stick and started to carve into the dirt. That made Okanogi even angrier, but he calmed himself down. Then the warrior's intuition resting in Okanogi's blood came to a realization. Numbers didn't matter. Even the full force of the Mountain Dogs wouldn't be able to defeat this monster. All the combat units were still down in the basement. There was no way they could take him.
ってことはよ、戦闘職の俺しか勝負にならねえってことじゃねえか。
Ah, yeah, it's the rematch in a way.
それに、お前の顔。こいつは懐かしい顔だ。たくましくなったじゃねえか。
貴様、まさか。
標準語じゃ思い出せねえか。なら鉛で話してやるぜ。すったら懐かしか。あん時の青二歳がよくもここまで立派になったもんよ。
It had been 5 years. This was the man Akasaka fought when he was investigating the kidnapping of the minister's grandson. Akasaka had still been inexperienced then.
あん時は手加減せん指示だったん。サービスもしたらった。
No orders this time.
だがな、今日はそういうわけにはいかんね。あの樽男も助けに来ねえぞ。しかし、この5年でだいぶ鍛えよったんだ。俺は嬉しいんで、俺はこういうのを期待しとったんよ。この5年間な。お前ら手を出すな。俺の獲物だ。
Okanogi took off all of his equipment and threw it onto the ground. He loosened one button and then positioned himself. Seeing that, Akasaka realized he was somewhat capable and narrowed his eyes in vigilance. Okanogi took that as an insult. That Akasaka only thought he was somewhat capable. His behavior was telling Okanogi that he viewed him on the same level as the other small fry. Oh hell yeah, bro, let's fucking go. Akasaka first moved to take up his stance and avoid getting Rika involved. Akasaka hadn't even moved one bit until just then. Okanogi could easily see that Akasaka was extremely strong. But at the same time, he thought he would be fairly simple to take down. Karate may be a martial art, but nowadays it was just a sport. The army combat Okanogi trained in was completely different. Obviously, Akasaka had studied a lot, but it's all just child's play. All he learned were routine moves and forms. Besides, karate moves are fairly straightforward. Okanogi was confident that he could fight any karate pro and win. Okanogi started leaning onto his toes and using his meticulous footwork. In contrast, Akasaka still hadn't moved from his back stance. Akasaka was acting as if Okanogi's footwork was simply a trick, which infuriated Okanogi. Okanogi moved fiercely and nimbly, in a manner completely different from how Akasaka was moving earlier. Akasaka remained calm, but Okanogi saw it differently. He can't react to my movements, so he's prepared to take damage in order to deal more. Akasaka couldn't defend himself from Okanogi's quick jab, and it connected with his face. It was a quick but light attack. Its purpose was to distract Akasaka and create an opening for Okanogi. Okanogi knew that Akasaka would use his arms to guard his face instinctively. Okanogi's real purpose was to attack his abdomen, which would then be unguarded. Of course, Akasaka didn't have enough time to guard himself. It took more than just good kinetic vision to prevent his attack. Only Okanogi, who trained for many years, had perfected the speed of that technique. Normal people would struggle helplessly while vomiting if they were to experience Okanogi's kick. It could even rupture internal organs. So it was pretty amazing that Akasaka was still on his feet.
どうした空手や。相手も同じ流派じゃないと戦えないってのか。軽い。
Oh.
何？
Oh. Akasaka mumbled something, but Okanogi couldn't hear. Actually, he did hear, but Okanogi had never imagined he could say such a thing in this situation, so he couldn't hear it. He couldn't comprehend it.
軽い。なんだと。
貴様の一撃は相手を打ち倒すことしか考えていない。だから重さが宿らない。
は？何をバカなこと言ってやがる。
空手は心を養う。人を打つということは自らも打たれることを知るということだ。自らの一撃が相手に何を及ぼすか。人は打つ意味と打たれる意味を知るのだ。だからそれに至らない貴様の一撃には重みが宿らない。
それは俺が未熟だということか。
Maybe it's, being naive, not immature. Okanogi attacked Akasaka again, but this time, Akasaka was different. Akasaka blocked Okanogi's fists and legs. Of course, Okanogi was still the only one attacking, but Akasaka had started to become much more aggressive. Now, as Okanogi attacked, his hands and legs were being injured. Okonogi instinctively sensed that he was in trouble. He thought Akasaka was just a police officer, but his movements were too dangerous. He was merciless, he was dangerous, so Akasaka's training and experience must far surpass Okonogi's. Wait, that dynamic heel kick isn't karate, is it? Akasaka's heel kick missed Okonogi's head by a millimeter.
てめえ空手以外にもやってやがるな。
いいや、私は空手しかやっていない。
嘘つくんじゃねえ。さっきから明らかに空手じゃ見たことねえ技が目立つぞ。
Okonogi was starting to become impatient. The reason Okonogi ridiculed martial arts as sports was because they were all hard-headed and only used set moves. And this is how you strike in karate. This is how you punch in boxing. This is how you throw in judo. It's easy to learn, and that's why it's easy to win. But Akasaka was different. He said that he only did karate, and he must have spent unthinkable hours training. Yet he was flexible enough not to be confined only by formatted moves. That was underestimating at a spiritual level. The spirit of martial arts isn't just forms. One simply learns forms to reach that spiritual level. Therefore, for one who has reached it, there are no forms. What Akasaka had was a philosophical spirit.
貴様の未熟さには落胆した。
くそー。
Akasaka stepped away from his original spot for the first time. He moved forward. He filled the space between Okonogi and himself with this inescapable conviction. As Akasaka walked closer to Okonogi, Akasaka's assault radius tried to swallow him whole. To be within that radius meant death. Okonogi walked backwards to avoid being in that radius. That was as the result of his clear-headed judgment. Not because he was scared.
人を撃つ意味のわからない貴様に本当の重さというものを教えてやる。
As Okonogi moved backwards, his back hit the van he came in earlier. He was cornered. Having your back to a wall didn't mean you were at a disadvantage, but the more it was pressed against the wall, the further a disadvantage it became. If Okonogi let Akasaka come any closer, Okonogi wouldn't even be able to take a combat stance. Okonogi decided it immediately. The last chance he had was the moment before Akasaka took his next step. Akasaka's foot left the ground. He was taking another step now. No tricks, no feints. Okonogi lowered himself and attacked with everything he had. The attack was powerful enough to break Akasaka's ribcage and rupture his heart. I'm a professional, Okonogi told himself. I can't be defeated by this amateur. Ouch. Fucking ouch. At that moment, Akasaka's eyes opened wide. Well, Okonogi just died. Oh, come on. That's some fucking power right there. That's some fucking shonen shit. Come on. All the mountain dogs heard a noise. It wasn't the noise of people fighting. It was the noise of a traffic accident. Okonogi's blow missed by a slight amount, and Akasaka's fist struck inches away from Okonogi's face. There was a dent in the sliding door of the van. The windows on both sides had shattered, and it looked like the van was in an accident. Was it even possible for a human fist to do this? Time resumed its flow, and Okonogi knelt down, falling to the ground. Akasaka didn't miss on purpose. Akasaka couldn't control his fist because he put everything into one blow. Okonogi should thank Akasaka. If Akasaka had been able to control his attack better, Okonogi's face would have ended up like the van. However, although it didn't hit Okonogi's face, it shattered his spirit.
Akasaka! Pachi 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 pachi!
Rika applauded, but in this situation it didn't sound like applause. It almost sounded like Akasaka's fighting spirit was popping like firecrackers. Akasaka pulled back his fist, turned around calmly, and then spoke.
次だ。面倒だから一度に来い。
They knew. Everyone knew. There was no way to defeat Akasaka with their bare hands. They realized they needed weapons. They also needed more people. There should be a better equipped unit in the basement. All of a sudden, things began to move quickly. The remaining mountain dogs emerged from the basement.
地上での発砲は許可されていない。繰り返す。地上での発砲は不可。大鳥1、R を回収して退却許可を。
But the mountain dogs, who just witnessed Akasaka's battle against Okonogi, realized it was time for them to run. They didn't even care about Rika. Who would even think of taking Rika from him after seeing what Akasaka was capable of doing? When Okonogi regained his awareness, he jumped into a van with the mountain dogs as it drove away. Since Okonogi took off his intercom device to fight with Akasaka, he had no idea what had just transpired in the basement. After the mountain dogs broke their promise with Rika, they were supposed to round up the remaining club members. But when Akasaka showed up, the dogs had to be divided into a ground force and a basement force, which altered the situation. Kasai had gone onto a counterattack, and the other club members somehow climbed up from the well and helped him. Well, that's nice. Since the mountain dogs weren't allowed to fire on the surface, they realized it would make the situation worse if Kasai fired his guns once he came up after them. Okonogi was unreachable, so Nightingale 1 had ordered the retreat in his place. Who would bear the responsibility for this? It was probably Okonogi's fault for taking off his intercom device to fight against Akasaka, as he basically abandoned his job as a commander. But everything happened in the first place because Akasaka showed up. So maybe it was his triumph, rather than Okonogi's blunder. Either way, everything was miraculous. But the mountain dogs hadn't run with their tails between their legs. They had simply retreated for the moment. When they returned, they would have enough men and enough arms ready to kill all who stand in their way. And that would happen very soon. There was no time to waste.
リカ、無事でよかったのです。なんとかね、奇跡のおかげで。奇跡じゃありませんです。みんなで力を合わせたから、その中の一人の赤坂が助けに来てくれただけのことなのですよ。ああ。そうね。この程度で奇跡じゃもったいないわね。さあ、今度はこっちが打って出る番なのです。
Wonder how that's gonna go down. Wow. What a crazy turn of events. Gamers, we need to call it a fucking night with this episode. What a wild one indeed. Shit, even the game crashed from all the excitement that was going on. We went from being cornered to helpless, practically ready to admit defeat, in a very similar way to what we saw in the end of Chapter 7. And then, the man, the practically a myth, the absolute fucking legend, Akasaka came to the rescue. What a Chad. Absolutely. Truly, what a Chad. Potentially one of the best characters in the game, maybe? Just from being a badass? I don't know. Be cool if he was, you know, in the story a little bit more. But hey, you know, at least he's here. Alrighty, we'll wrap this episode up. I think I'm gonna try and make the episodes around 50 minutes to an hour in length as we go to the end here. I want to say that we're getting closer to the end. I don't know how much more we have to go, but I want to say that we have one more big fight to happen. Because, I mean, come on. Like, who else do we need to face? It's basically facing against all these fuckers again. And I'm assuming through a possibility, the Bloodhounds maybe get called in, maybe? Maybe there was that, oh yeah, Tomatake, you know, if we don't hear from you, then we'll just send the Bloodhounds in, or we'll provide some sort of backup and get more information, and then we'll decide on that. That's sort of my prediction on things to go down here. But I think that with all the game pieces we have, shit, this is looking more and more likely like a possibility to win. For the first time ever, it actually seems likely. That's crazy. Absolutely. Alrighty, gamers. Thank you for watching this long-ass episode. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy shit. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.